Amended for an honorable discharge. What's the status of your case right now?
The latest update we had was it arrived in the office of the Secretary of the Air Force in early May, and we were told then it would go through one final legal review, and then that recommendation would move forward to the Secretary of the Air Force. At the time, we expected that would be about 2 to 3 weeks, and if you can do the math, it's been about 8 or 9 weeks since we were told that. So that review is taking a lot longer than we originally expected.
Does that, the fact that it is taking longer than expected, does that give you hope that you won't be discharged? Do you know how to interpret this delay?
No, I don't, because the case has been reviewed by multiple layers already. We did request to meet personally, my legal team, with the Secretary of the Air Force. We were turned down twice. We also requested that my legal team appear before this review board so that they could present some of our legal concerns on how my case was handled. Again, we were turned down on all those requests, but we were able to put forward a legal brief that showed all of our concerns there. But we're not sure if that just means that they're really taking our arguments seriously and they're taking a long time to review this. And we also don't know if they're taking extra time because Secretary Gates, as you know, announced new, more lenient, more humane enforcement standards in March. So maybe they're taking the extra time to apply those standards. We hope so. As you know, those standards, some of the things he announced, my case meets all of those standards. For instance, it was not credible information that was presented. It was not from a reliable source. And my chain of command did not take into consideration how that information was gained. And then finally, there was clearly malicious intent involved by the person who outed me. So my case should be, basically the poster case for the new enforcement standards. My case meets every one of those criteria, so that really the Air Force has the opportunity to do the right thing here, to dismiss my case and to retain me. And I hope they do that under these new enforcement standards.
It sounds like with all of those variables in play, and obviously you know everything there is to know about your own case, you know as much as any of us do about the status of the policy and what's going on internally at the Pentagon here. I imagine being in this kind of limbo for this long must be really stressful. Is it?
Oh, it's extremely stressful, Rachel. I mean, I thank God every day I get to put on the uniform and I get to continue to do my job. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm going to get the phone call tomorrow that'll say, "Hey, next Friday is your last day of service," and I don't know how I'll react to that. So it's pretty hard to continue to do my job, knowing and being under that stress that I don't know when my last day will eventually be.
We've talked a couple of times since your case initially became known publicly, and I've asked you this then, and I'm just asking you again now because I want to know if it's still the case. Is there any issue in your unit with the men and women that you serve with them serving alongside you in uniform with you now as an openly gay man? Is there any issue?
No, none whatsoever, and I know we've talked about this before. In fact, 2 weeks after I was on your program, one of the issues they talk about is how will this affect retention and recruiting. Well, I had a master sergeant in my squadron approach me, and he asked me personally to do his re-enlistment. He asked me to re-administer his oath and sign his paperwork to re-enlist him. He didn't ask the squadron commander, and he didn't ask his immediate supervisor. He asked me. I was honored by that, and I was glad to do it. And since that time, again, my unit has been nothing but professional. They've been dedicated to the mission. They have proven that this survey, this study, doesn't need to go on for 10 months. I can invite the people as part of this working group to come work with me tomorrow. You don't need a hypothetical study or survey. You can come to work with me and see real airmen, real warriors who care about the mission and only care that I'm able to do my job.
There's been controversy about some of the survey questions since the survey first went out a few days ago. I know that you've seen what's on the survey. Do you have any reaction to it? Do you think it's necessary, unnecessary? Do the questions bother you?
The questions in particular, a couple of them, I think, well, I would just say that I don't want to say they're insulting, but there are things in combat that we just don't think about. You think about where your next meal is going to come from. You think about your next mission. You think about your family back home, and you just don't think about who's showering next to you. It's questions like that got specific seem somewhat insulting. I think the survey is unnecessary completely because, for one reason, 24 of our allies have already ended their bans, and so they've already looked at these issues that we have to address, and they've implemented effective solutions. So all we need to do is call United Kingdom, call Israel, find out how they address these problems or these issues that came forward, and implement similar solutions. And secondly, like I said, you can come to work tomorrow and you can see that real airmen, real warriors don't care about my personal private life. They only care that I'm able to do my job and able to execute the mission. And then the last point I want to make is this survey is unprecedented. If we wanted to see if everybody was comfortable, we could ask them if they wanted to go home for Christmas or stay in a tent in Afghanistan, and you'd probably get 90% that said they'd rather go home for Christmas. And nobody asked me if I was comfortable while I was getting shot at 8 times over Baghdad. Nobody asked me if I was comfortable in my 13-hour mission over Afghanistan. So the survey is unprecedented. In 1948, when we integrated the armed services, President Truman didn't take a survey to do that. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And in the 70s and in the 90s, when we integrated women into the academies and into combat units, again, we didn't take a survey. We did it because it was the right thing to do, and our military became stronger because of it.
Lieutenant Colonel Victor Fehrenbach, who soon may be a 20-year veteran of the Air Force. Victor, thank you for taking the trip to talk to us, and thanks for sharing your story. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
Primary season is officially over in the great state of Alabama. This week they held their runoffs, and that is good news here at this show because the end of primary season means we're finally free to make fun of a select few former candidates who were desperate for us to make fun of them while they were still in the running. What these candidates did during their short-lived campaigns is called bait. These 3 amazing Alabama politicians put out ads that were clearly designed to bait liberals like me into attacking them, so they would then be able to raise money by campaigning against the liberals who criticize them. Now that all of these candidates have lost, we can make fun of them without taking the bait and becoming part of their fundraising strategy. Hooray! So first, there's this guy, Dale Peterson, who tried and failed to win the Republican nomination for Commissioner of Agriculture. Check out his subtle and nuanced call for reform.
So listen up. Alabama Ag Commissioner is one of the most powerful positions in Alabama, responsible for $5 billion. Bet you didn't know that. You know why? Thugs and criminals. If they can keep you in the dark, they can do whatever they want with all that money. I'll name names and take no prisoners. Give me the Republican nomination for Ag Commissioner, and let's show Alabama we mean business.
Despite the sheer joyful irrelevance of Dale Peterson's big gun in that ad, Mr. Peterson and his gun lost in the Republican primary. Then there was this guy, Rick Barber, running in the Republican primary for Congress in Alabama's 2nd District. Mr. Barber's ads were such good bait, they were nearly impossible to avoid talking about.
Hey, Abe, if someone's forced to work for months to pay taxes so that a total stranger can get a free meal, medical procedure, or a bailout, what's that called? What's it called when one man is forced to work for another?
Slavery.
You gentlemen revolted over a tea tax. A tea tax! Now look at us. Are you with me?
Gather your armies.
So yeah, that guy lost too. But the best guy who lost in the Alabama primaries was this guy, Tim James, trying to be the next Republican governor of Alabama, just like his dad. Now, we did post something on our blog about Tim James, but we've been waiting for his inevitable loss and the end of Alabama's primary season to make fun of his truly, truly terrible laughing at you, not with you legendary ad here on the TV machine.
I'm Tim James. Why do our politicians make us give driver's license exams in 12 languages? This is Alabama. We speak English. If you want to live here, learn it. We're only giving that test in English if I'm governor. Maybe it's the businessman in me, but we'll save money. And it makes sense. Does it to you?
While that ad is brilliant enough on its own, what is truly amazing about it is the number of truly great parodies it inspired. First came the inevitable translations and dubbings of the ad into Spanish. Someone even added scrolling subtitles in 12 languages to the "This is Alabama, we speak English" ad. But the best spoofs, and they are truly inspired work, involved Tim James look-sorta-alikes suggesting other things that should only be done in English, in Tim James-ese. There are a million of these, and they're so good they are actively distracting from everything else you should be doing in your productive life.
Hi, I'm Tim James.
I'm Tim James.
I'm Tim James.
Hi, I'm Tim James.
Why are there so many foreign restaurants here in Alabama? When I'm governor, Juan's Taqueria will become John's Flour Bread Sandwiches. Sushi Inaka? Main Street Fish Rolls.
You know when you were watching a DVD and you accidentally hit the foreign subtitles button and you don't know where the button was because you hit it by accident and you can't change it back? Yeah? Well, that's next on the list.
This symbol for pi looks very foreign to me. What does it mean? It's certainly not an American. That's why when I'm governor, I'm going to replace the symbol for pi with this picture of a pumpkin pie with the word math inside. That way people know we're talking about the math version of pie instead of a real pumpkin pie. Maybe it's the businessman in me that wants to draw a picture of a pie with the word math inside instead of using the symbol for pi drawn by a mathematician. But it just makes sense. Does it to you?